good day and welcome to today's program, the first of the year, the first interview that I'm doing for the year. I'm so excited about that fact actually because I know that I've got quite a lot lined up for the year 2022. But the first one's always going to be special, isn't it? That's what I think anyway. So my guest on today's program, little giveaway here, tiny little giveaway. She's a London, UK-based R&B singer, songwriter, producer who has recorded with a stack of people. So let me give you the heads up. Pin your ears back. This might be long. She's recorded and done work with Kylie Minogue, Jessie J, Gary Barlow of Take That. She's also worked with Incognito, Linslee Campbell. She's worked with Caron Wheeler. I love Caron Wheeler from Soul to Soul. Gibb of Bee Gees, Basement Jack, Craig David, Charlie Wilson, Uncle Charlie from the Gap Band, and also Raymond Co. And she's worked with another UK gospel artist called Sinai. Who am I talking about? The one, the only Miss Cherokee, also known as Em Cee. Hello.
Hello.
How are ya?
Great.
I know you're looking great as well. You're looking great. It's so good to have you. Thank you. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Str8up. Welcome to the Str8up TV channel. So yeah, that was a bit of a mouthful in terms of introductions, and we've got to get something cleared up straight away because you've got Em Cee and you've got Miss Cherokee. Now I've known you for years as Miss Cherokee, and it wasn't until 2021 that I heard of someone called Em Cee. So, just like me, because I have this dilemma, people say, do I call you Lee Grant or Grantley? And why is it Grantley? And why is it, and it was a short story for me, First I started off doing radio and then it was TV. And I didn't want to get the two kind of like jumbled. So Grantley was created for TV and Lee Grant was for radio. What is it for you? So Miss Cherokee, how did that come about, first of all?
Well, I began as just Cherokee, which is what most people that know me personally will know me as Cherokee. Then there was a US artist also called Cherokee. So I thought, drat, I can't also be called Cherokee. So then my mentor and a guy that I used to write with that I did my first album, he's like, well, why don't you call yourself Miss Cherokee? And I'm just like, yeah, that's a good idea. Then I kind of felt like Miss Cherokee people kind of like to typecast artists quite a lot or musicians. It's like you can't kind of move to another genre or another kind of, do something slightly different. So I thought in line with me wanting to kind of take a slightly different musical direction, I changed my name to Em Cee, which is just a pseudonym of Miss Cherokee. That's all.
Okay. Because I thought it was going to be a case of, let me see if I can figure this out. So I thought it was going to be a case of Miss Cherokee for producing and Em Cee for when you're singing.
It is kind of a little bit of that also, because the other thing is when I feature on other people's stuff, I do tend to call myself Miss Cherokee if it's writing or production. But again, I mix it up. I'm terrible because people, whenever I've worked or featured with somebody, they always ask, what do you want me to call you? And I'm just like, whatever mood I'm in, just say Cherokee. Because Luke Smith, my cousin's just done a project with Roy Ayers that myself and Linslee Campbell are featured on. And he asked the same question. I think I'm registered as Em Cee on that, but for the Kylie Minogue stuff, I think I'm registered as Cherokee. So it just
and just to set the record straight, your cousin is Luke Smith.
Yes, definitely.
The wonderful jazz pianist who's doing some great things at the moment. So yeah, your family background musically, is this kind of like a standard thing? Is like mum and dad in that, and your siblings? Anyone else going down the route of where you've gone?
No, my grandfather was a musician in a band. He used to play the ukulele. There's other musical cousins, like I have another cousin abroad. his name's Lincoln Ward, who's also a producer and writer. There's a few of us dotted around the world, but Luke
Okay.
kind of Luke, because we're both here in the UK. We've worked together a lot on and off over the years. So
Yeah, you guys are the major ones, aren't you? Really, you're the majors, you could
wow,
say. So let's get this thing crack-a-lacking. So I've known you for a little while,
yeah,
yeah, for quite some time, and I've always known you as Cherokee. Yeah, I know, um, and I've always known you as a producer. Okay,
yeah,
so let's start there, shall we? Let's start there first of all. We're gonna get to the album, which is called Honey Coated Hip Hop. 18 tracks, gorgeous album. We will get to it, but before we get, let's do the build up, shall we? Let's do the build up. So how did you become a producer? And was it sort of like, are you one of these producers that can work or started off in a small room and also knows like the big room environment? How did you get started?
Well, basically, I wanted to be a producer from the get-go.
Right.
Just always anything musical, I absorb it, adverts, TV shows, you name it, anything musical. So it's just, I always grew up knowing that I wanted to be a part of that and make music. Fast forward, I met a young man called Cash Rex, and we're working with a producer. The tracks were not great. But I always thought, okay. Mm. Then basically, I get introduced to the legendary Linslee Campbell by Mr. Cash Rex. He came into the studio with this box that looked like a cooker with loads of buttons and lights on it. And I'm like, what does that do? And then it was an MPC 3000. And he started making beats on it. And obviously, I was just like, I was fully blown away. I'm like, I want to learn how to do that. So the rest, as they say, is history. He taught me how to use music software. So I kind of got into it from there, really, and then
Yeah.
that's the beginnings of it, anyway, the crux of it. So yeah,
Okay. And how many years would you say you've been producing now?
oh my god.
Let's throw some perspective on this.
Okay. Um, everyone's gonna know that I'm really old now, secretly, but yeah, I've been producing for like the last 20 plus years. So yeah.
Yeah. And let me tell you something. Let me tell
I'm
you
only
something.
25. I started when I was 4, so yeah.
Right, okay. And that's the reason why she looks so young. Yeah. Okay.
It's
So guess what? I was looking around the studio, right? And I came across one of these. You know what that is, right? That's a mini disc. Yeah, that's a mini disc.
uh,
TDK
yep,
74 MD, if that
yep,
means anything to anybody back in the day. But on the label of that is written Cyanide.
okay,
It's written Sinai, uh, and the song is called Missing You
okay,
Remixes. So, number one, the track is from Miss Cherokee. Number two, Linslee Campbell. Number
yeah,
three is
uh-huh,
Adrian Mackenzie. And
yep,
number four is Code Red Garage.
mhm,
I don't know who these people are.
you don't.
Never mind. I
But,
do know that Miss Cherry. Well, I don't know who Code Red is. Do you know who
um,
Code Red is?
there were like some garage producers that were around, I think, in the early 2000s, but
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was all, yeah,
And Junior, the manager for Sinai, was trying to get like some variety of remixes. So I guess that's the
oh,
reason why he brought in Code Red Garage, Adrian Mackenzie, yourself, and Linz. So
yeah.
does that bring back any memories to you? Missing You remix?
Yeah, definitely. I remember being in the studio with those girls, and we had such a great time. We always had a laugh in the studio, but like what it is with Sinai, they always came across as really serious, like gospel artists, which they are heavily rooted in the word. But in the studio, we had the silliest of times, usually getting kind of told off. If when we were recording Linsleys, Linslee always likes to be really serious in the studio. I was like, he's not teaching, we're all scared, like, oh, let's be quiet and not giggle. Whereas we're like,
You know what?
but
I've got so much great memories of Linslee. I haven't seen him for so long now, but you know, we used to have this nightclub in the West End called the Str8up at the Click Club,
oh yeah,
right?
yeah. Hmm.
6 years, okay, 6 years. We did the Click Club for, and in 6 years we only ever had one live band, and
Okay.
that live band was a band called Company.
Oh, the company, yes. Chris
Yes,
Brooks.
yes, and on the night when they set up and everything took ages, but it was really really worth the wait. Linslee ended up playing drums.
Really?
I was like, what? Linslee on drums. Anyway, that was fantastic, fantastic. Totally blew me away. But yeah, it's not about Linslee right now. So
Yes.
as a singer, you
Mhm.
have released a few albums. The first one was back in 2000. You did something in 2001.
I did.
But fast forward, we won't talk about that because time is against us now.
Okay.
You've got this fantastic album that came out in 2021. Is that right? It's called Honey Coated Hip Hop.
Hmm.
18 tracks. You've gone
Mm.
berserk.
Wow. Do you know what? They've been a long time coming. The very first track on that album was actually produced. Well, not the very first track on the album, but the
Yeah,
oldest
because the
track.
first track, the first track is an intro.
Yes. But one of the first track that I produced that's on the album was Better Days.
Right.
And it's probably about track six or something, I'm guessing. But yeah, that was the first track that I did, and that was actually done in 2000. So, but people still love it. I'm glad that all the other tracks are not quite that old, but they've been done over a period of time. But due to all sorts of life circumstances, etc., it's taken a time to release it. But it's here now, and I guess timing is everything because people seem to be really enjoying the album. So I'm
So you
grateful
really
for that.
gave people their money's worth because the album probably took a year or two to put together. So you made sure it was worth it. 18 tracks. Which is your favourite?
There's too many. Let me think. There's a lot that are my favourites. Ain't Gonna Cry, I really like.
I love
Another.
that one. We're going to play that after when we finish. I
Uh,
love TV. I love on TV as well.
yeah, TV definitely. They've all got
Yeah.
different stories as well. I guess all of the songs about different things that were perhaps happening over that time. A couple of songs were written by a couple of different people as well. Michelle Escoffrey, that some people will know, and also another amazing writer called Louise Francis wrote a song on there as well. So yeah.
Okay, so tell us about the track with Tracy.
Tracy Lee. Wow.
Tracy
Okay.
Lee.
Tracy Lee, an amazing, like, iconic US rapper who's had number one hits over there from Philly originally. So big up Tracy Lee
Boop,
in the
boop,
house.
boop, boop. Oh, we can
Um,
do better than that, can't we?
yeah. Um,
Nice one.
wow, you came with it. Yeah, Tracy Lee. It's a weird one. We met at a chance meeting. I think we were in, where were we? The Jazz Cafe. We were at concert at Jazz Cafe, and we got chatting at concert, and then it's kind of like we asked, obviously you always ask, what do you do? He's like, oh, I'm an MC, and I'm like, oh, I'm a producer, and he's like, hey, let's work together. So I was like, hey, come to the studio. And then
As
he
you
came
do.
to, yeah, literally, it was like the next day he came to the studio and just dropped his verse for Don't Stop, and the rest, as they say, is history. And he
Hold on a minute.
smoked.
Did you just say he? I thought Tracy was a female's name.
No, Tracy is a male rapper. As I said, he's
Okay.
from Philly, like, from early '90s. He had a number one hit with, oh gosh, what is the song called? I'm gonna get punched in the face for not remembering. But
Come here.
yeah,
Let me
he,
do it. Let me. Oh, go
if
on.
you could
Carry on.
Google it,
But
Yeah,
people
so
can do that. People can do their research. We've got such a thing called Google now, so that it's all right. So listen, we just heard a little bit of your phrasing there. You know,
yeah.
you're not a Londoner. You're from Birmingham. That was
That
like,
was
I mean,
that was
you know,
great
w-
Scottish accent you did there, but
right? Okay, that was my French and Spanish coming out there.
ah,
So
bon?
growing up in Birmingham,
Yeah.
growing up in Birmingham,
Uh-huh.
what was that
It-
like? Because I know you're a fairly young girl and everything, but you've seen some life. What was life growing up in Birmingham like? Was everyone around you? Did they all come out like you, or what was it like? What school did you go to? Did you go to uni? Did you go to college?
Right, okay, that's many questions in one there. I'm going to try and work backwards. I went to college, and I did like six A levels, but like I was trying to do basically I wanted to do music, but I know my parents secretly wanted me to have some kind of career,
A real
a
job.
yeah, a real job, not a musician, basically. So I did a bunch of subjects at A level, like maths, English, music. I did music at A level as well, and that's the only one I actually got an A in, strangely enough. What else did I do? A bunch of subjects, philosophy, all sorts of other things, basically. And having done all of those A levels, I still didn't feel fulfilled. So then I went on to do a sound engineering course and thought, this is where I want to be. So then from there, I began to pursue music. I'm trying to remember what the previous question was. Remind me. Oh, what was life growing up in Birmingham? Very family orientated. I'm the youngest of seven siblings, so in my household there was always lots of different types of music because obviously all my siblings are different ages and they all have different musical tastes. So I listened to everything from punk to ska to soul to pop, everything. Literally I listened to, and obviously the odd Jim Reeves album because of my parents. So I had a lot of influences growing up, and I think all of those things kind of come through what I write and produce now ultimately. So yeah.
You saying that your parents listened to Jim Reeves really does take me back and gives me an idea where your parents must have originated from as well. Because most people, especially from Jamaica, that came to this country on a Sunday, it was
Mm,
like sacred, right? Sacred. Had to have
yeah.
some Jim Reeves playing, or the
Yep.
Andrews sisters. So
Jim.
yeah, it was a fun time. I mean, growing up in a big family, right?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, as I said, all of those things impacted me musically. We had fun growing up because it was a big family vibe. Then I had a lot of great grandchildren. Well, my parents had great grandchildren, not me,
Yeah,
um, that grew up in our household as well. So it's like there was lots of different influences happening. So they all seeped.
excellent. So you've been doing this for more than a minute, okay?
Mm.
Would you say that you're quite familiar with the music business? Do you know
Ooh.
your way around the boardroom table, cutting deals and stuff like that, or is it left to someone else, like management or some sort of agent?
Well, I did have management at one point, but like I just found it easier to kind of manage things the way I need to for the direction that I'm trying to go with my career, because obviously management often have different ideas to you as a creative, but it's all me basically. I'm kind of the label, I'm the artist, I'm the writer, I'm the producer for some of the time. I pretty much do everything. I even do some of the artwork for some of the projects that I
Oh
do as well.
wow!
But yeah.
So you really sort of stretch yourself and your talents in terms of what it takes to be all of those things that you've just mentioned.
Yeah, you try. I think a lot of artists are kind of doing things themselves these days. It's really, really not easy at times, and one of the reasons kind of there's been gaps in what I do is because sometimes you do just eventually suffer burnout, and it's
Yeah.
not easy. So because it's, I mean, I've only got one head and I have to wear many hats, so that's quite hard at times. So
Yeah, it must
just
be. So,
if
so,
you,
so I asked that question, MC, to ask this question because I'm always fascinated when someone brings out a product, an album, an EP, a single.
yeah.
How do you know what platforms to put it on? There are so many, and
Mm.
how do you know? Is it a case of just talking to other people or what?
Well, the album that I've just put out is literally gone out on all of the platforms, like all the major platforms like Spotify, Apple, Tidal. There's a bunch of others that I can't remember, but they're like the three main ones where everybody kind of puts their stuff. But that's kind of, they're like the HMVs and the Woolworths of the digital world now. So, but
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, but the big difference between the digital world and the virtual world that you just mentioned, your Woolworths, etc., etc. In terms of how much you get paid as the creative artist,
Yeah.
would you say that it's fair or is disproportionate? What would you say about that?
I don't feel like it is fair because people like Spotify, they're like probably the biggest streaming platform. I don't know which is the biggest, it's either them or Apple, but I do actually think it might be Spotify. But literally they pay pennies really to artists and
Really?
without
As if I didn't know.
they
Yeah,
don't
it's
pay.
not fair, is it? It's not fair.
It's definitely not fair because like even from a million streams you won't get that much money at all. Like, I did know the stats, and I'm not going to embarrass myself by misquoting, but it's really not that much at all for like if I was to have a million streams.
Yeah.
So, unless you,
I asked the question, okay, because I'm
yeah,
always fascinated in what it takes to put out a quality album like your album is definitely up there. Honey coated hip hop is definitely up there, and I just think, how much would it have cost to from like start to finish to produce an album like that, like roughly?
that's kind of a how long is a piece of string type.
String, yeah, I know, but if you was to say a ballpark figure, would it be
I
like 2, 3,000, 4,000 more?
I can't quote that figure because I was very lucky in the sense that I had access to studio time. Also, I wrote and produced a lot of the songs, and I create a lot of what I do at home. A lot of what I have done is either in this room or in another room where I've been living in the past. So, in terms of my own budget, it was virtually zero, to be honest. It didn't actually cost me that much because of people that I have in place to help me do what I do.
Yeah,
Um,
and
so,
because of your and because of the skills that you've got yourself. Okay,
yeah,
but
because
if it was more, if it was more, it would cost me about 10 grand at least, maybe
oh,
more.
'cause yeah, because producers, if you were to pay a producer for every single track, that's
Yeah,
whatever the fee might be, then you would have to pay studio time. You would possibly have to pay an engineer on top of that.
yeah,
You would have to pay for mastering, mixing. So
yeah,
there's a lot of different kind of things within that equation that are all kind of in house for me, luckily. So again, I couldn't
yeah,
even
yeah. So
begin to.
for you, it kind of works out. Yeah, because you've been around, you know what you're doing, you can do a lot of stuff yourself, etc., etc. But for someone else, it probably costs a lot more. 18 tracks is not to be sniffed at. So the album is been out for a while now.
Uh,
Um,
since my birthday on October the 10th, if anybody wants to remember that next year and shoot some
October the 10th is her birthday. Okay, so
special
start
day.
saving now because she's not one of these girls that you can just take to McDonald's. So it's been out for a little while, and by all accounts, MC, it's doing very well. Tell us about some of the stories that people, the interest around the globe. Who's
Yeah.
getting excited?
A lot of people are getting excited. I'm excited probably more than anybody else
And
secretly,
rightly so.
but yeah, people like yourself have shown it a lot of love. Global Soul Radio, My Soul Radio, and all the DJs there. Um, on Global Soul, it was their number one song for 3 weeks in a row. And I think at the end of the year, when they did their top 30 countdown, I was number six, which
Yeah.
isn't too shabby. I'm still happy about that because that's for the whole year, basically, of everything that's been released. So chuffed about that. Urban Influencer, I think, was number one there as well. The Amazon new release R&B chart. There are about 3 or 4 songs from the album that featured at different positions within the chart. I think the
Yeah.
highest position was number 4. There was another one at number 12 or something, one at 30, and then one at about number 50 or something like that. So,
Okay.
you know, that's nice to be at multiple positions in the chart. So that's, I mean,
You've obviously had to have done a lot of work to
yeah, I
get
did.
that kind of interest, and it's been noticeable because obviously, on socials, your
Mhm.
Instagrams and Facebooks and
Yeah.
YouTube, you're all over that like a rash, right?
Well, you know what? It's not even just me. I guess it's people who also really love the project have also been sharing it a lot and helping me. So what I mean, thanks to everybody that's helped with the promo that I've had nothing to do with, but I guess they just believed in the product and really loved it and liked the album and just wanted to show love and support. So thank
Yeah.
you to anybody that's done that, all the shares. So maybe I'll do a little shout out afterwards. But yeah, I'll let
Yeah.
you.
And it really does help to get your product into the right hands as well, right? So what advice would you give to someone that is getting ready to release their new project for this year? What sort of advice would you give?
Make sure it's good. That's thing number one. Make sure it's good quality because ultimately DJs are less supportive if your product isn't as good
In
as
the
it
bin.
could be. Or next. Yeah, it's just that really. Thing number one, that's that. Make sure all your socials are covered if you can get on blog sites, etc., etc. I've been a little bit rubbish to be honest because I'm one of these people that kind of just bury my head in the gear in this room and just get on with my work to be honest and going through samples and music. I'm a bit rubbish in terms of the promo in that sense. So maybe it could have even done more if I'd have done more of that. But I'm just buried in the music. Me sharing things and whatever isn't where the joy. That's not my sweet spot for me. My sweet spot is creating really. So
You're a creative.
hmm, I
That's
try
what
to.
you do. That's what you do. So yeah, I've often wondered, okay, what it must have been like and still is like as a woman in the industry. Um, I could be opening a can of worms here, but what has there been any setbacks? Has there been any like noticeable differences because of the fact that you're a woman in the industry, both from a production point of view and a singing vocalist songwriter? What's it been like?
Um, Good and bad. I guess being a female, you get scrutinized a lot more, and you kind of have to prove yourself a lot more with your male counterparts. There's definitely a lot of sexism, and there's definitely a lot of okay, you can't do that, or who did the beat? I did. Who wrote the song? You did. Who mixed it? I did. Who did blah blah blah? Who did the drum programming? I did. What software did you use? Um, you wouldn't, if I was a male producer and said I produce a track, it's just either I like it or I don't like it. There's
Yeah.
not this tick box of questions that you kind of have to answer to prove yourself. It's just like ultimately the next question is it's like, what I mean, what's between your legs? That's what I'm waiting to make sure that I'm female. But it's just
Oh,
like I'm being crude, but yeah, it is literally like that. And then also as well, on the other hand, you know what I mean, being a female within the industry, you can also be sexually harassed, which is another issue altogether, which we will not touch on today. But
Yeah.
you know, it can be challenging at times. It really can. As I said, you do kind of have to over prove yourself. So you know what I mean, I just do what I do. If people like it or if they're threatened by it, then
You did kind of skip over the sexist kind of part, you know, harassment and stuff like that. And I
yeah,
understand why you would want to skip over that, especially in the light of what happened with old Jeffrey and Epstein and all the rest of it. But it is reality, you know.
yeah,
It can happen to, it does happen to women on a daily
it,
basis, right?
yeah. Well, yeah,
I don't want
basically.
to. I'm not trying to get you to get into any stories or anything like that. But what I'm trying to say is, you know, we could
No,
easily just skip over it and
yeah,
just say, you know, but it does exist.
it is a thing. It is
It
definitely.
is a thing. It
It
is a
is,
thing.
but unfortunately, it's part and parcel of what it is to be a woman in this world. Really, producer or not, you know, most women will go through some kind of awkward.
Do you find that you just have to be on your guard?
I'm always on my guard. I think, as I said, because I know that people have different expectations of me because of what I do, or they're expecting me to not be that great. As I said, I'm always sometimes, or used to, should I say, try and overprove myself, but I just do what I do now. But luckily and
Great,
hopefully, I
and
like
rightly
it.
so, and rightly
Mm,
so. That's a good attitude to have. Just do you,
yeah,
and let your work and your talent speak for itself, right?
most definitely, most
Okay,
definitely.
for those of you who don't know, the album has been out for a little while. It's called Honey Coated Hip Hop. Why did you give it that name?
Because of what it is. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm a massive hip hop fan, but I'm also a lover of melodies and a lover of R&B.
Right,
So because of that, it's kind of like I wanted to take the rough edge off of hip hop and kind of give it a bit of sweetness, a bit of honey. So me and my songs and my vocals on top of what essentially, you know, are kind of like, I don't know, they're not hardcore hip hop beats, but you know
they're
what I mean. There's
dope. They're
a
dope
top.
beats. They're dope
Yeah.
beats. I can say that for you. They're dope. Yeah, and a great name, great name. So what are you working on now? I know
Mm.
it's only been a minute or two since you've had this one out, but are you working on anything?
I'm always working on something. The next project due next year, I have an EP coming, which has a few other features that are going to be on there.
Right.
Um, yeah, that's coming. That is going to be called Windows of the Soul.
Windows of the Soul.
Windows of the Soul. That is essentially done now. So just
Yeah.
literally just. So first quarter of next year, I'm just kind of letting honey coated run its course, and then I'm looking to do that shortly. As I said, early next year. I have a video already for one of the singles on the album. So yeah, I'm hoping that people show that as much love. It's a little bit different to
Okay.
honey.
What's the video? What's the video track?
Video track is for Comfortable. It's a track called Comfortable.
A track called Comfortable.
Hmm.
Okay. Where did you shoot the video?
That was shot in London at I'm gonna big up the video director now, Mama Sam. That was
Easy,
shot,
Mama Sam.
yeah, easy Mama Sam. Yeah, that was shot in London. So yeah.
Okay. You must have had fun doing that.
We did definitely in the streets of South London, but yeah, bits of it. So yeah,
All
it was a
right.
cool. But
So
yeah.
you got your swag on.
Well, she helped me get my swag on along with everybody else. Big up Houdini, Joy Rose, and Susie Woozy, who are also my extras in the video, and they were
All
being
right.
extras. So thank you for
Nice
that.
one. All right. So listen, how can people find you on social?
You can reach me. You can reach me 75MC is my Insta handle,
Yeah.
and my at 75MC again on Twitter, and my link tree, which is really bad of me to not be able to remember that. I
That's
can
all right.
read
You
it.
know what? I'll see if I can leave it in the comments. Is that all right?
Yeah, for me,
I,
that's
I,
fine.
I'll
But
help you out. So the album's out right now. Go and get your copy. It's called Honey Coated Hip Hop. MC EM hyphen CEE
yeah, that's me.
bass. Yeah, thank you so much for being my guest. My first of 2022.
Thank you for
So
having me.
when you mentioned about first quarter, it's actually first quarter of this year.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, we're already looking forward to what's coming down the line. Thank
yeah,
you so much for doing the backing bed that is underneath our vocals, sending them through for me. And
thank you.
yeah, the guys on Solar Radio are loving your Tony Monsons, your Richard Marzetti. There's so
Yeah,
many of the guys just loving the album to pieces, and rightly
yeah,
so. So thank you so much,
thank
and
you all.
we look forward to what you're going to be coming with. Are you planning to do any stage performances? I know, like with the current situation, a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm not sure." What about how's it going to go for you this year?
That really depends on Mr. Boris, really, or whoever's in a position of authority in terms of live venues and live events.
Yeah. It'd be
I
so nice when when the clocks go forward, or is it backwards, and the sun is shining again. It'd been
see,
really nice to see you on stage.
definitely, I've already got a few pre-booked shows for next summer, so I'm
Right?
looking to those, depending on fingers crossed whether they actually materialize. But summertime should be okay, I guess, because hopefully,
Yeah. It's a way down the road, so
yeah,
hopefully. For now, thank
yeah,
you so much.
cool. Thank you. Thanks
Really
for
do
having me.
appreciate.
Yeah.
So there you go. My guest on the show was Em Cee. My name's Grantley, and you've been watching the Str8up program right here on Str8up TV. Until next time, take care.